After nearly 13 years, police have arrested a suspect in a series of murders on Long Island, New York.
Authorities have charged the suspect, a 59-year-old New York architect, with the murders of 3 women. They also say he's the prime suspect in the killing of a 4th. And here with the latest is ABC News editorial producer Cristina Corbin. And joining us from Massapequa Park, New York, senior investigative reporter Aaron Katersky. Aaron, let's start with you. You're there in the Long Island village where this suspect lived. It's been said that he lived a double life. What do we know about him, and where does this investigation stand?
Right now, we've seen crime lab technicians, Eva, going into the house for a 5th straight day. They've put on their white Tyvek suits and little blue booties, and they continue to pull out evidence, looking mainly for forensics to help solidify the case against Rex Heuermann. They're also looking for any potential trophies that he might have left behind. Physical items that he may have taken from his alleged victims, these 3 young women who were all killed more than a decade ago. And prosecutors say the public and his neighbors here saw an ordinary dad, a commuter by train into New York City to his architecture firm. But behind the scenes, they said he spent money on 2 things, guns and sex. And they pulled out an arsenal, more than 200 guns from a vault in the basement. And they also, during the course of the investigation, say they found burner phones and unidentifiable email addresses that he used to search for things like child and torture pornography and to solicit sex from workers, at least 3 of whom he's now accused of killing.
The details coming out of this case are very bizarre. Cristina, you've been reporting on this case for quite some time. You actually produced a documentary on the hunt for a serial killer. How were authorities able to find him?
So it's actually a combination of 3 things: cell phone data, DNA, and then an old clue that investigators took a new look at. Back in September of 2010, a witness reported seeing a first edition Chevy Avalanche parked outside of one of the victims' homes, Amberlynn Costello. Fast forward to last year, 2022, investigators who are honing in on this name of the suspect were able to determine that at the time of the murders, he owned that very same vehicle.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. Aaron, there are 10 bodies that were found in this area between 2010 and 2011. Tell us about these victims and what this breakthrough means for those families.
These families have thought for a long time, Eva, that their cases weren't being taken seriously because they were sex workers and just nobody cared. And it took a new district attorney and new police commissioner in Suffolk County to invite in the FBI. They put some sophisticated cell phone analytics to work, and then they were able to narrow down an area where a potential suspect could even live. That's thousands of people. And as Cristina mentions, only a handful of those people actually owned the distinctive SUV, and that's how they get to the name Rex Heuermann. Financial records and DNA evidence, including some taken from pizza crust that investigators say they saw Heuermann throwing away outside his office in New York City, led further to him as a suspect, and he was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of second-degree murder. And part of the reason they're still here at the house looking for forensics is to try and see if he could be tied to the 6 other Gilgo Beach victims. And in fact, police beyond Gilgo Beach in New York City and elsewhere in the state are now checking their cold case files to see if there's any connection to this very same suspect.
And Cristina, I remember covering the case of 24-year-old Shannon Gilbert years ago here in New York. And at that time, police were very concerned, but they were quick to say that it was unrelated to the series of all these killings here. What do police know right now? Because it was her case that actually led up to the series serial killings, rather.
Shannon Gilbert is so important to this story because had Shannon not disappeared, we might never have found any of these remains. An officer was out on Ocean Parkway in December of 2010 looking for Shannon, and his police dog, it was happenstance, came across the first set of human remains at Gilgo Beach. Shannon was found an entire year later in December of 2011 in a marsh in Oak Beach, which is about 3 miles away from Gilgo Beach. And at the time, the Suffolk County Medical Examiner ruled it an accidental drowning. That was later called into question by the family, and they asked for an independent autopsy in 2015, for which I was present. And that was conducted by forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Bodden. And Dr. Bodden focused on a very small bone in her neck called the hyoid bone. And the hyoid bone in her case, had a rough edge to it. And when a hyoid bone is fractured, that's the hallmark sign of a strangulation. So he ruled her death a likely homicide, but Suffolk County Medical Examiner's Office still maintains that it's really undetermined and they believe it was an accidental drowning.
Oh, wow. So many questions, so much we're still learning in this case. ABC editorial producer Cristina Corbin and ABC News senior investigative reporter Aaron Katersky, our thanks to you both. Well, coming up here, next, combining boxing's fancy footwork with the study of science and tech.
Yeah, it's the dream of this entrepreneur providing new opportunities for students. GMA 3 will be right back.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.